Hello investors and traders, and welcome to the weekly market report. I'm AJ Monte, and this is a daily candle chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF, ticker symbol DIA. And as you can see here, we did close higher, but look at that candle. It's been a long time since we've seen a shooting star like that one. The last time we saw a shooting star almost exactly the same length in that shadow was back here in July 31st to be exact, and then it was followed by this bearish engulfing candle, and then it tanked over the next couple of days. Well, shooting stars are bearish 80% of the time, and I will tell you that this oscillator down here is the stochastic. That is crossing with a sell signal, and we have a negative divergence right there on the CCI. The CCI is my most favorite oscillating index. And when you see higher highs coming in with the CCI showing lower highs, that's a negative divergence that you have to watch out for. And you can see back here, that's exactly what happened. After the shooting star here, we had that big drop, and again, prior to that, we had that negative divergence. So my downside target on DIA, not moving, 411.32. And moving on to IWM, you'll see that we have another shooting star right there, long shadow. We had a shooting star back here, same thing. Right on that day, July 31st, we had those shooting stars showing up right across the board in the major market ETFs. And we have a long stretch of red, but when you see that, it's very odd that you see a lineup of red candles while we see higher lows and higher highs. But what that tells us is that the markets open up higher with that optimistic sort of opening, and then the sellers have been coming in each day, selling it off from the opening price, and that's taken as a big negative. So the downside on IWM still set in place at 212.78. Moving right along to the Qs. This is basically the Nasdaq ETF. We do have a pivot right there. A pivot point is when you have a lower high, lower low. We have that showing up right at a resistance point back here. We have a sell signal on the stochastic. We have a sell signal on the CCI. And so that downside target still in place at 464.86. Now, moving on to SPY, what do you think? I think it's going to be the same thing. Oh, and guess what? It is. It's going to be the same thing. Downside target, 550, 558. We have that red candle. We have a sell signal on the stochastic, sell signal on the CCI. We have a drop in volume on the way up, and we still have a wide divergence from that 20-period moving average. Now, moving on to the VIX, interestingly enough, we have a pivot to the upside. Let me zoom in a little bit more. And the VIX closed within pennies of the high of the day. And so we have a buy signal on the CCI, buy signal on the stochastic. I think the VIX next week is going to start crossing over that 20-period moving average, which will ultimately lead to the upside target there of 26.68. Now, I don't have a whole lot of geopolitical news, mainly because we've been tied up with this major hurricane, Hurricane Helene. And I got to tell you, you might hear it in my voice, this one hit hard. And as you can see from these videos, these were drone shots taken this morning by one of our friends in Cedar Key, and it was absolutely devastating. You could see the damage there. Some of our members who have come to visit Cedar Key have stayed at some of these places. You have the Faraway Inn is basically rubble right now. Those little cabins. And I got to tell you, people from Cedar Key will pick up their bootstraps and get to work, and they'll rebuild. But the challenge is there's another tropical depression coming into the Gulf. That's, we've already had the 1-2 punch with Hurricane Debbie last month and then Hurricane Helene. I just hope we don't get hit with another one. But in the meantime, I was able to collect some economic data. You can see here the U.S. net savings by household, businesses, and the government as a percentage of the GDP has been negative for 6 straight quarters. This is the longest streak since the great financial crisis. And you can see here how we're moving negative. Now, this is recessionary, obviously, and being that we're so close to this presidential election, you know that the incumbents do not want to use the R word. If you were measuring the economy and inflation based on the old method or the old metrics, you would have already known that we are full-fledged in a recession and the GDP would be dropping, the CPI would still be going up, but they tend to pad that. I think it's common knowledge right now that those numbers are basically being padded, and then we see the revisions that follow. Wasn't too long ago we had that 818,000 job report revision. And so we're going to see the same thing, I believe, with the economic and especially the inflationary numbers. Now, the Kobesi letter put this one out Wednesday. The Richmond Fed Manufacturing Employment Index plummeted to 21 points last month, and this is the lowest level since April of 2009. You see here, and this is again going to affect the employment numbers. It's going to affect the job report eventually, and the real news is going to catch up with the numbers, I believe, again, like I said, in the revisions. So stay tuned for that. And then next week, hopefully we'll be at least progressing through this cleanup process. I'll be able to gather some more data for you. I'd like to ask that you also send out some prayers for Greg Montwell. He is a good friend of mine. I've known him for over 40 years. He's also one of our coaches. And last night, his house was basically destroyed. It's totaled. So we're trying to find a way to get him either into my other place, or I'll even move my RV down by where he is so he could rebuild. It's unbelievable. And there's people up in Atlanta and Charleston that are getting hit. And so this is one of the most incredible things. But more incredible than the storm itself is how people come together. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your prayers, for your comments, for your concern. You have already noted that in the comments page. It's very much appreciated. And hopefully we will get enough subscriptions on this channel to be able to put fundraisers together through YouTube. We don't have enough to do that or to make a difference. We're coming up on 12,000 subscribers, but when we start to get up to 50,000, 100,000, we'll be able to do special fundraisers to be able to help people. So again, thank you so much, and you have a good weekend. We'll talk to you on Wednesday during the midweek report. Take care.